But it does here.
Not all of it's like not all where it says rectangles, but all rectangles, or the other way around. Not all parts of New Jersey, but parts of it. Like the game.
You know, it's real when I'm in a situation.
We're all being so brave.
The good news is like, there's a run. You know, you'll find a place.
Everybody knows the order.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take one guy. Yeah.
I'll just put it back.
Okay.
Hola, hola, buenos días, bueno, buenas tardes a toda nuestra comunidad. Estamos en vivo aquí desde la cárcel de la Migra en Newark, Nueva Jersey.
Alright, we're going to get started. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. We had the opportunity, myself, Congresswoman McIver, Chair Clark, to go inside and conduct an oversight visit of Delaney Hall. As many of you know, the Congressman and I have been here before. And what you see inside that facility is the betrayal of the American dream. People from all over the globe who had started lives here in America under the premise that they would get to live their American dream. And that betrayal every day is happening inside that facility. People who are small business owners, people who have children who are American citizens, people who have committed no crimes. Despite what this administration says, you just look at this administration's own data and it suggests and it shows you that these people are not criminals. They are people that have been part of our communities for decades, people who have given back to our communities, who are raising their families here, even an individual who is married to a woman who serves in our military. Those are the people that are being held in there. Not what this administration wants you to think. The conditions, they're not receiving adequate medical attention. We asked questions about what happened last week to Mr. Brutus. We were told that there's an investigation underway. We look forward to being given the results of that investigation. But I can tell you, in the dozens of people that we met with, people are sick, people are coughing. The food situation continues to be horrible. These are human beings. These are people who are taken out of our communities and are being held there. On your dime, on the American taxpayers' dime, while the GO group makes more money than they ever had in their entire history. That's what's happening inside there. No matter how many times we show up, they are going to continue to exploit a broken immigration system. That's what's happening inside there. It should enrage every American that we've allowed this administration to take advantage of a broken immigration system, and that's what they are doing for profit. Yeah. For profit. Yeah. It was described as a slaughterhouse in there by one of the detainees. Because they know that they will hit a dead end no matter what they try to do. Any right that they have, they try to exercise, they will hit a dead end. Lawyers, no lawyers. Resources, no resources. They continue to hit dead ends because they do not want these people to have a chance at the American dream. That is what's happening inside there. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that it's happening here in the city of Newark and the state of New Jersey. But with that, I want to hand it over to my incredible colleague, an absolute champion for her district, for the city of Newark, for the state of New Jersey, Congresswoman McIver.
Thank you so much, Rep. Menendez. First of all, I want to start off by sending my prayers and my thoughts and my sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Brutus, who lost his life here in less than 24 hours of entering this facility. I want to thank his family member, Evans Delaney, who was here earlier, who was going to be a part of this press release but had to leave, unfortunately, and to our Haitian elected officials who were here as well, representing for the community, our Haitian community here in New Jersey's 10th, but more so here in New Jersey in general. I think, number one, it's traumatic to be back here. I know many of you want to know, how does it feel being back at this location, the same place I was at back in May, where I was assaulted, where we were treated like crap, where we were disrespected. To be back here, it is very traumatic to be here personally. But at the same time, I have a responsibility to serve the people and protect the people of the 10th Congressional District. And that is why I had to put aside my traumatic experience here and come back here and represent for them to see what is happening inside of this awful detention center. The congressman already talked about some of the things that we heard from some of the detainees. Awful conditions, no food, no adequate food. Folks who have said that they would be voluntarily deported, but waiting for months to be voluntarily deported after signing paperwork to do so. Still not deported to their countries of origin. These are the things that we're hearing. People who have not had a court date in months, who are waiting. Loved ones cannot visit them because they're waiting hours and hours of time to visit them. Not getting proper medical care. Literally, women not having access to OBGYN or female products in this facility. It is extremely awful, and that is why this detention center needs to be shut down. Bottom line. And we're going to continue to say that this facility should not be open with double the numbers of detainees in just a few weeks. They should not be open. And that is the reason why we're here. We're going to continue to show up here, continue to have oversight, and continue to do our jobs. This is not right. It is not right. When we left out of there, a detainee told us this is not the America that we dreamed of.
Right.
Back in their countries, they thought they would be able to come here and have a better life. They had been picked up at asylum hearings, at immigration court, not getting picked up for committing a crime, being picked up for going through the proper process to be in this country legally. And they were picked up and have been incarcerated, held hostage in a cage in this facility, and it is not right. And we have got to call it out. We are better than this in this country. These are not people who committed crimes that our president, our lying president, continues to say. They are here on work visas. Some work visas not even expired, and they're in there on student visas, literally inside of a jail with approval from this country to be here. It is not right. And we have to call it out. That is our humane responsibility. And we have to do better, and we should be better, because this is not how we should treat human beings. And so we're going to continue to show up. I'm damn sure going to continue to show up, to call out what is happening in this facility. It is wrong. And as Rob said, Congressman Menendez, excuse my informalness, it is about money. It is about money, and it is about cruelty. That is the two top priorities of this president and this administration. To get rich, to get their friends rich, to get their billionaire friends rich, and their family members rich, while being cruel at the same time. And if it meets those two criteria, well, President Trump and his administration, they're all in. And it's unacceptable. At this time, I want to welcome my colleague who came here, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, my colleague from New York, Yvette Clark.
Let me thank my colleagues, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver and Congressman Rob Menendez, for their steadfast leadership, their commitment to justice, and what we have just witnessed is an injustice. You know, I was searching my heart as I drove from Brooklyn to New Jersey this morning and thought about the fact that this is the holiday season, and for me as a Christian, you know, it's a high period of time where we think about the birth of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I thought about the fact that, you know, in his teaching, he asks us to go and visit those who are incarcerated. And you know, that kind of put me at ease in coming here, because I had this anxiety about seeing a sea of humanity, close to 1,000 people in this facility right here, whose only desire was to add value to our nation. And it's so interesting that so many of the individuals in here had no criminal records. No criminal records at all. As a matter of fact, they were adhering to the rules as set forth by the legislation of the House of Representatives of the Congress. They were showing up for their hearings. They had viable cases within the immigration court, only to be kidnapped and trafficked across this country. These individuals, not all of them have been only here at Delaney Hall.
Yeah.
Many of them have been circulating throughout the private prison system around this country and brought back. How could it be? Follow the money.
Yep.
Follow the money. These individuals could have been deported months ago, weeks ago. Yet, they're being trafficked right here in the United States of America. I want to express my condolences to Mr. Jean Wilson Brutus' family. His life was snuffed out right here in this facility. And we await the results of what ailed him, what got him to the point where he is now deceased, and so does his family. But this is something that should shock the conscience of all Americans. This is not what our nation has stood for throughout its close to 250-year history. And unfortunately, it is this generation, it is this America that has to confront the cruelty, the greed, and quite frankly, the wickedness that we are experiencing throughout this nation. Any death in the custody of the United States government is the responsibility of the United States government. We expect that there will be disclosure and transparency. And I want to make sure that the Brutus family are given the truth and nothing but the truth. There have been 4 reported deaths in ICE facilities in the past week alone, a record number since this administration took power. And it is an insult to call this incident isolated. When we spoke with the detainees, they talked to us about the stale food they're being given. They talked about the delay in life-saving medication that many of the detainees are not receiving. They talked about the fact that the request for seeing medical attention can take weeks. And how could that be if this is a detention center and these individuals are only supposed to be here temporarily? Well, this is what is taking place here in Delaney Hall. And no human being is deserving of the conditions that we witnessed in this facility. I was heartbroken to see the faces that look just like mine being overcome with fear for their lives and grief for the future that was taken from them. Delaney Hall and every facility that engages in this sick brand of inhumanity must be closed immediately. Yes. And a full and independent investigation needs to follow. That's right. I will continue to demand accountability and closely monitor the situation as we learn more. Our nation rises to its greatest heights when we are guided by our hearts, our compassion, and a moral obligation to our neighbors in need. What we witness behind these gates is depravity. It is the rotting of the soul of America. My home of New York City will remain a sanctuary to the oppressed and the powerless. Our doors will always be open to those seeking refuge and safety. But they will also always be closed to Donald Trump and his agents of hatred. So today is a month-long, a years-long march towards justice. We will not stop. We will not yield. We will not succumb to the wickedness, the cruelty, and the greed of this administration at the expense of not only their humanity, but our very own. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Chairwoman. At this time, we'll have remarks from Corporation Counsel Kenyatta Stewart on behalf of Mayor Baraka.
Good morning. First, I want to send my condolences on behalf of Mayor Baraka and, of course, the entire city of Newark to the Brutus family and the Irvington community. We also want to thank our members of Congress here for your, fight nationally, and of course, for fighting for your right to have oversight of this place and all these other facilities alike. We're here today because a young man lost his life in Delaney Hall after being there for a year. And the folks from Delaney Hall will want us to believe that there was no wrongdoing. Now, we know it's wrong, the fact that he did not have an opportunity to spend the last moments with his family. Yeah. We also know it's wrong that he didn't have an opportunity to say goodbye to his son. And we also know it's wrong that his family is lost here requesting or asking or demanding answers. It's unfortunate that we're in a situation where Delaney Hall didn't even give us information about Mr. Brutus. Mm-hmm. You would think they would say that, he's a man from Irvington. Mm-hmm. They would say that he's a man with the son, and they would also say the basic information that you would get from a place like Essex County Jail was within feet of Delaney Hall. Yep. It's unfortunate that we're in a situation where the president continues to tell people that, ICE will only capture or go after or target people without criminal records or with criminal records. But, we know that's not true as well, because we've come to learn that most, if not the majority of people who've been detained in the last year have no criminal history and no history of violence. The sad part about it is that they're trying to use minimus allegations that Mr. Brutus was facing to legitimize him being detained. It's a shame that we're in this space, Congresswoman. I'll tell you that, I'm proud to stand here with you, and of course the other members here, but especially with you, and of course our member to the right, Mr. Menendez, because we were here together in May when these folks acted crazy and arrested the mayor for no reason. Of course, that led to the charges that you're fighting now. We stand with you 100%. I'm going to tell you that, like many of you, we thought this was America. We thought this was America. And unfortunately, we're in a space where Mr. Brutus, like many other people, didn't come to America for this. He didn't come to America to be captured like a criminal or, kidnapped like a slave. He actually came to America like many other people because he heard about the American way and wanted to appreciate the American dream. What's happening in ICE and what they're doing is un-American. And we know that. What's happening in Delaney Hall is un-American. And the sad part about it is it does not reflect the American values of this country, Congresswoman. And you know that. So as a result of that, we're going to ask, like the family, like the Congress members here, for a full-fledged investigation of what happened to Mr. Brutus. We also want to make sure that oversight continues and make sure that there are no dangerous conditions at this location or any other location. The city of Newark stands with its family, stands with Irvington, and also stands with our members. And whenever you're here, we're here with you. And whenever you can't get here, we'll cover the rest. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have up Amy Torres, the Executive Director of New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Amy.
Hi, everyone. It's very bitter and sorrowful to be here again, especially at a moment that really feels like we told you so. It was 228 days ago that we were out here on May 9th because we had heard reports inside about dangerous conditions, a lack of food and drinking water, inadequate supplies, overcrowding, and here we are 200 plus days later and the conditions are exactly the same. But we're also here because now a man is dead. A man who just within 24 hours of ICE custody, 41 years old, is dead. Supposedly of natural causes. But as many activists have said in the days since this news broke, there's nothing natural about dying in an immigration jail. There's absolutely nothing natural about it. Immigration law is administrative, not criminal. It does not matter what your contact with the criminal legal system was. ICE purports that there were charges of trespassing. Look around. We are all actively trespassing right now. We are in a private driveway. And yet, his contact with ICE led to his death. It's with such bitterness that we have to extend condolences to the Brutus family. No one should have to feel this because a loved one was in ICE jail. But it's not only his family that deserves answers. It's the families of the 900 people who are still in this facility who are wondering if their loved one is going to be next. Because it's still overcrowded. There's still not enough food. There's still no drinking water. It's still a place where injuries can happen to you, abuse and neglect run rampant, and your life is at stake. This is not the first death at Delaney Hall. When it opened in the past, people also died there. And those families seeing the news today must be filled with scorn to know that this facility is not only running on $1 billion of taxpayer money, but that it's actively killing people again. Because there's a twisted marriage between an administration that is hell-bent on enacting a racist mass deportation agenda and one of the largest private prison corporations in the world who's just interested in lining their pockets for profit. It's time to shut Delaney Hall down. It's time to shut down every single facility like it. We are on track to exceed the death record of 2005 for the number of people who've died in ICE custody. 20 years ago. Never mind that we were here 200 days ago. 20 years ago, conditions have not improved. We're about to exceed that number. It's time to abolish this agency. It's time to shut down facilities like this. It's time to free every single person inside.
Thank you all so much for coming. That concludes our press conference. We really appreciate you being here. Questions? Not at this time. Thank you.
Rob, I'm heading to Brooklyn. I'm out.
Just don't stop them about shutting down the diaries.
Oh, absolutely.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Estamos aquí en vivo desde la cárcel de la Migra, como pueden ver a nuestras espaldas. Acaba de terminar la rueda de prensa hecha por los representantes Menendez y LaMonica McIver después de la muerte de un compa haitiano inmigrante. Una vez más nos vemos o recordamos la importancia de cerrar este centro de detención, que es inhumano, un lugar donde torturan a las personas, donde no les dan comida adecuada, donde las condiciones adentro son inhumanas. Entonces estamos aquí afuera. Acaba de terminar otra vez la rueda de prensa con los representantes Menendez y LaMonica McIver, que vinieron hoy a hacer una inspección, pero sabemos que las inspecciones sin un plan más concreto no va a ser mucho, porque la migra puede maquillar el lugar aquí adentro, pueden ordenar todo por un día, por un par de horas, mientras vengan estos representantes. Inmediatamente se van, sabemos que todo vuelve de nuevo a como es, un lugar inhumano. Sabemos que una vez que estos representantes, estos políticos vengan a hacer la rueda de prensa, quizás la migra va a volver a hacer lo mismo, torturar a las personas, no darles comida bien. Por eso es muy importante seguir diciendo que cierren todos los centros de detención, no solamente en New Jersey, sino a nivel nacional. En otras palabras, abolir la migra, que se desmantele ICE, que no exista. Entonces estamos aquí con compañeros de la comunidad. Vamos a ver qué dice. ¿Usted va a hablar con él? ¿Puedo poner esto aquí? Estamos aquí. Como pueden ver, el representante Menendez está hablando con algunas personas. Aquí también hay una compañera que ha venido hoy a visitar a uno de sus familiares. Ella quiere hablar con el representante. Vamos a esperar a ver si puede hablar.
Her son was taken in yesterday.
Yeah, my son go to the Newark immigration.
Where do you live?
I'm in New Jersey.
Whereabouts?
Pardon?
Where in New Jersey?
In your Harrison. And my son go to the control immigration, and he just went like when he see the case, he saw he don't have any case, so he took him right here yesterday.
And you said you're Harrison, right?
Yes.
So Patrick, so her son, their residence is Harrison. Okay. So Patrick's in our office, so we can, since you're in Harrison, that's part of our district, we can work together what can be done, and then we can start to work with you and your family on this. Yeah, we're speaking private. I'm speaking private.
Before you leave, can you speak to the shelter? What is going on with the families that are still waiting in the cold?
So what they said they're going to now try to do is that there's a gymnasium that is adjacent to the visiting area. They want more people to be able to go there while they're waiting.
That's what we want.
My understanding is that
there's two things. Geo Group suggests that there are standard hours for visitation, and people will come hours before. I said there's two sides, right? There's two stories, right? And so their story, Geo Group story, that people come hours ahead. That people come hours ahead, and that's why there's times they're waiting outside. I'm just saying there's two stories, and that they're trying to be more accommodating by having the gym opened up, especially now that the weather is getting worse. The folks that we talked to, who are detained individuals, said that the hours shift, and for people that have a long ways to travel, there's very limited access. That Geo Group said the hours are, let's say, from 4:30 to 8:30, I believe, right? But those hours can be shifted, and also that the average time that people have with their visitors is closer to 30 minutes, right? As opposed to Geo Group made it seem like there was no limit. And so there's definitely discrepancy, which we have to work through, because they have us meet with the detained individuals at the end of the visit. So it gives us a narrative of what's actually happening versus what we saw on the tour. This was probably going to be our last oversight visit that required the 7 days notice. Because as you know, we have a legal right to show up on an unannounced basis, which is critically important. The administration had implemented this rule, 7 days notice. From the time that we requested to do this oversight visit and today, the courts have ruled and put a stay in place on the 7 days notice. So my intention is to come back to here into Elizabeth Detention Center on an unannounced basis, because that's the only way to do these oversight visits.
When they imposed that 7-day notice?
Early on in the administration, the DHS, I think actually shortly after our visit here in May, they imposed the 7-day, and what we were being told was that Secretary Noem had to sign off on any congressional visit. And then that was challenged in courts. And listen, it's not the tool that I want to use as a legislator, but there are wins that we are having in courts. The latest win that we are having is the stay on the required 7-day notice.
What changes did you see between when you were here in the summer after the uprising and the 2 hours that you spent there today?
Yeah, one is the number of people, right? 954, I think, is what. I think it's 954. 952 is the number of individuals being detained there right now. They have more staff than they had previously, but they're still hiring in the medical unit alone. So they're not even at the full staffing capacity, and they're almost at the capacity for detained individuals, which is 1,000. So it's not and they're all Geo Group, right? So everyone in there is not like you see at the Elizabeth Detention Center, which we talked about, right? Is Core Civic subcontracts with a government health entity, right? Here it's all Geo Group individuals, and so there's still a lot of gaps. This is like, so these are the times that meals are served. 4:30 a.m. is breakfast. 10:30 is lunch. 4:30 p.m. is dinner.
And that's inconsistent because that time is not regularly when
so
we hear from them.
Those are 3-hour windows that start. So each meal, because they have to take all 952 detainees, right, through the process. So you have a 3-hour window where if your unit is the 4:30 a.m. unit and you don't get up for breakfast, you're done. And so that's issue number one. Issue number two is, to a T, everyone that we spoke with said the food is not edible. And we've heard concerns about the water and the safety of the drinking water. We have a number of things that additional information that we gathered while in there about the well-being of individuals. And we are concerned. It's like EDC, it's not a well-ventilated facility, and you have health. I asked if someone needed to be segregated for health purposes. They said yes, but they still put multiple people into a segregated health unit. So people are sick in there, and especially this time of year. I'm very worried about the health of folks.
The 952 that are in there now, is that fewer or more than back when you came after the disruption?
Yeah, they've been ramping up since we were here in May.
How many since the last time you were here?
I think it was. I can get you the number from when we visited, what it was, but it's continued to increase, and about 64 of those detained individuals are female.
From the detainees, did you pick up a palpable sense of despair?
You know, it was. Listen, it is an unbearable situation in there. I mean, people just, men crying. People who never thought the day they left their house or went to go to court that they'd be in here away from their families. For all the humanity that this place tries to take away from them, they'd refer to each other as, my brother, as my friend down there, and they knew each other's stories, right? So you can't strip humanity away from people. You can try, and this place is trying. The way they treat people, the conditions they have them in, the food they feed them, they're trying. But these people are some of the people who believe in what we've sold across the globe in terms of the American dream. People who gave up every life and everything they ever knew to try to create a story here. And they still believe in it. They just can't believe this is where they find themselves. People who have raised families here, started business here, and this is where they find themselves. And that part they can't believe. And that part's just really hard. That's why I said earlier, you leave that place and you feel like inside just the betrayal of the environment.
Congressman, aside from relying on us to spread the word that what you learned inside, is there a more formal process after these visits that you...
So there's always follow-up after every one of these visits, whether directly with the folks in the Newark field office for ICE and DHS, having conversations there about some of the things that we saw, the things that we heard from the detained individuals, and then it escalates from there.
How about your colleagues in the House?
And then that's where it escalates from there. In terms of oversight, doesn't just happen on site. The challenge in the minority is that oversight in Washington is largely at the discretion of the majority, so your House Republicans.
Right.
So what we've started doing, mainly led by Congresswoman Jayapal, is having what we call shadow hearings, where without being in the majority, you still have people come and give testimony and build a record. Now, it's not the official legislative record, but it gives you a more formalized way to bring these issues from across the country. And the benefit of them, one of the many benefits, is that I participated in one a couple of weeks ago, and hearing about some of the health conditions that people were experiencing, the lack of access to health care, and I didn't know that it was going to be in advance of the loss of Mr. Brutus's life, right. But knowing about these things and what's happening across the country, because you have two large private detention center operators, the GEO Group and Core Civic, which operates EDC, so you have two large players, and so they are going to be facilitating or operating these facilities across the country, so you learn about what's happening, what the patterns are, and it gives you greater awareness before you go inside and knowing what to look for.
Real quick, what were your interactions like with GEO Group employees in there? Do you think you're getting an accurate portrayal of what's going on, considering the 7 day?
The only way to get an accurate portrayal is to spend a day there, right? And not have them know who I am. That's hard to do. But no, I don't trust that anytime that we do this, that we're getting the full accurate, no one's going to curse at me, no one's going to yell at me, don't have to use the facilities, right? Don't have to take a shower there, don't have to ask to receive help there. I would like to eat a meal there, not tell them when, but because that's one of the chief complaints. And I think, it's one thing to find yourself there, it's another thing to just, you feel like the basic thing you can be given is just a warm meal, and to feel like you don't even get that is, people have lost weight, people are in poor physical conditions. So no, I don't think you ever get a fully accurate view. I think the only way to do that is to talk to the detained individuals. But it's helpful to know what what GEO Group's narrative is versus what the detained individuals share with you, right? Because, between the two of them, I think you know who I'm going to believe if there's a discrepancy in what I'm hearing. So,
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. Stay
Thank
warm.
you.
Appreciate you all being out here. Our office will talk to you, okay?
Yeah.
Bueno, como pueden ver o como pueden oír ahí o han oído, el representante Rob Menendez, representante federal de Nueva Jersey en Washington, D.C. También estuvo LaMonica McIver, que ya se fue. Para hacer un resumen breve, esta mañana estuvieron aquí haciendo una inspección adentro de la cárcel de la Migra. También esto sucede a una semana del anuncio de la Migra del fallecimiento de Jean Wilson Brutus. Jean Wilson Brutus era un inmigrante que fue detenido por la Migra y en custodia murió hace 2 semanas atrás. La Migra se demoró aproximadamente 2 semanas para anunciar, casi 2 semanas para anunciar que había fallecido una persona aquí adentro, tratando de evitar que la comunidad, que el público sepa, ¿no? Finalmente, bajo presión, mucha presión, tuvieron que anunciar que había fallecido Jean Wilson Brutus, inmigrante haitiano que fue detenido por la Migra y en custodia de ICE murió. Esta mañana los 2 representantes federales, LaMonica McIver y también Rob Menendez, estuvieron aquí haciendo una inspección. Por favor, no se olviden de compartir este video con sus contactos en las redes sociales. Estuvimos esta mañana en conjunto con Radio Cosecha, Radio Jornalera, Radio Cata, Radio Rebeldía, también muchas organizaciones que pudieron venir aquí. Por favor, no se olviden de compartir esto. Ya nos vamos a ir. Recuerde que si usted todavía no se ha unido a una organización comunitaria en su ciudad, busque una. Nueva Jersey no es tan grande, hay muchas organizaciones que están haciendo un buen trabajo en el campo. Vienen a New Labor, Resistencia en Acción, Cosecha, Casa Frijol, desde el sur, Pueblo Unido. Hay muchas, por favor busquen. No se olviden también de darnos un like y compartir estas transmisiones en vivo. Nos vemos, como pueden ver está lloviendo y hace mucho frío, pero hemos estado aquí afuera para poder hacer que nuestra comunidad realmente se entere de lo que está pasando aquí afuera de la cárcel de New Jersey. Esta mañana rueda de prensa de Rob Menendez y LaMonica McIver después de haber inspeccionado la cárcel de la Migra en Newark, Nueva Jersey. Gracias, nos vemos.